Hey friends, it's Jacqueline for Pixie Dust PhD. I am filming this on October 14th, 2021. I hope it gets posted on the 16th or 17th, so pretty soon after, but the point is, it's October of 2021, so this is the month 20 creator update. In this month's installment, we'll talk about why I'm posting vlogs from Universal, we will talk about the Disney Genie Plus updates a little bit, gonna tell you some exciting news, and then of course we will go over the analytics both for month 20 as well as lifetime up until this point. Stay tuned. Let's jump right into it because it's kind of a long one today, probably. So first is I've gotten a couple of questions of why I'm posting vlogs from the Universal part of our trip. First, one, it was just fun to take those memories along with it. I thought it would be kind of weird to vlog only Disney and not Universal. I really enjoy Universal, that's why we went. But two, really, is that over on Twitter, before I left for vacation, I ran a poll and asked if folks would be interested in those vlogs or not, and resoundingly it was yes. Some folks even made the point that Universal's more economical to go to than Disney, so they may be shifting their habits. Here on YouTube, there is a community tab, but you have to have 1,000 subscribers to do that. So I would love to be able to talk to you guys, have you comment on the community post for you to tell me what you do or do not want to see in that kind of short-term time frame. But I just don't have that capability yet. I can't make those posts. I can't run polls on YouTube. So for the most part, if I have questions about the direction of the vlog, I'm either doing it in these updates, which you all do give me wonderful feedback from, and I really appreciate that, and then also over on Twitter. I totally get it if you aren't interested in the Universal stuff. That's cool. This is mostly Disney Channel, but yeah, there are going to be a few Universal vlogs proper, with footage from the parks, and then also sort of the at-home reaction type videos to what our Universal favorites were and stuff like that. Next, let's talk about the Genie Plus news a little bit. So we have more details finally. First of all, Genie Plus is launching, depending on when this video gets posted shortly, a couple of days, in Disney World. I don't think we have a date for Disneyland yet. And I'm not planning on making a video for that because, as I've said before, this is not a news channel, and honestly, this is pretty straightforward news. I don't think it's worth re-explaining. The confusing parts of Disney Genie, Genie Plus, and the individual paid attractions, which I'm calling Raja rides, that confusing part is the same, basically. I mean, we have a little bit less questions now, a little fewer questions, excuse my grammar, but the whole structure is the same, and I think my prior video still goes over that perfectly well. I don't feel the need to do a whole video just to tell you about what rides and what the pricing is, etc. But let's talk about it in this because I want to. So the Raja rides for now are up to $15, which obviously if you have a larger family, that is quite a lot of money, but honestly, it's really not as bad as I thought it would be. This whole rollout of the paid system is not as expensive as I thought it would be. It definitely is not as expensive as it could be. If I've learned anything about being a Disney Parks fan the past 6 years or whatever, it's that there is a segment of people who will always be willing to pay the price. So I, for one, am very glad that it's not up to $50. I still don't think I would pay for most of these, but I can fully appreciate why some folks would, and honestly, if that's within your means and it's going to make your trip better, you do you. At Magic Kingdom, the two rides for now, and they can change these at any time, are Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Space Mountain. I don't think I would pay for either of these. In Epcot, it's Frozen Ever After and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Remy's, again, for now, and this is only accurate as of the day I'm recording this on October 14th, but Remy's doesn't have a standby line. Remy's has the virtual queue and then this paid option, and that's it. Hollywood Studios is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and then Rise of the Resistance. So back when I filmed the earlier Genie explanatory video, Rise of the Resistance was a virtual queue, and we thought, well, I thought at least it may stay that way, even though we knew Remy's would also be a virtual queue. They ended up putting Rise of the Resistance on pause for the virtual queue, so now it's standby or paid Raja ride. Also, I just want to say that the comms team at Disney, whoever is making these announcements, crafts that language so perfectly in all of these big announcements. So, it's on pause, right? It's not that the virtual queue for Rise is done or removed. They have just paused it, which means they can unpause it at any time. I don't pay a ton of attention to parks news and how things are going when I don't have a trip coming up because I find it a little bit depressing. But when the Rise standby queue first launched, I knew it was going pretty okay. I think the posted wait times were super high and they were just crazy overinflated. People were getting through a 90-minute posted wait in 35. I'm not sure if that's still true. I don't really know how the standby line is going, if I'm honest. So that's another one where, like, I won't pay for it, but that I could definitely see people paying for it, and, like, that would make a lot of sense to me. I don't think I would pay for Mickey and Minnie's either. The standby line went pretty well when we were there. I was there during a low crowd time, though, so it's hard to judge. But again, like, if you want to pay for these things, I'm not judging you. I'm just letting you guys know what I would do, and, like, I don't think I would pay $7 to $15 to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And then over at Animal Kingdom, the two options are Expedition Everest and Flight of Passage. Everest has that single rider line, and assuming they keep that open, I, as an adult person who typically only travels with one other adult person, like, would not pay whatever, even $5, I don't think I would pay to do the lightning lane for Everest. Flight of Passage, like, yeah, if it's a 3-hour queue and you've never done it and you really want to do it, I could see that. I am kind of surprised that Slinky Dog Dash didn't make it onto the paid Roger Rides list, but given that there's only 2 per park, I mean, I get why you would pick Mickey and Minnie's and Rise of the Resistance and not necessarily Slinky Dog. But that line is just, like, consistently long, and I genuinely think people would pay to skip it. Again, I don't think I would, but, you know, if I had a 5-year-old who recently decided that they were interested in coasters and met the height requirement, and I didn't want to wait for an hour in the blazing sun. I mean, they put some umbrellas up, thankfully, but that's not a fun line, really. Yeah, I might pay it. So it'll be interesting to see how these things evolve. And again, right now, it's a $15 max. Who knows what it will be in the future? I think all of this is very in flux. The other thing we learned for certain from some travel agent announcements is that when you buy Genie Plus, so the $15 replacement for the free Fast Pass, not this, like, additional Roger ride thing, you can only go on those rides once via Genie Plus. So for example, Big Thunder Mountain in the Magic Kingdom, that is included in Genie Plus. It's not a separate paid attraction like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So through Genie Plus, you can select a return time and go do Big Thunder Mountain through the lightning lane. You're basically just selecting your Fast Pass time now, but you paid for it. But you can only do that once now. The other thing they have announced is that there will be no maximum number of Genie Pluses that they sell on any given day. Like, it won't sell out. I don't know anything about Disneyland. I don't pretend to know anything about Disneyland. But I've been told by multiple folks that Max Pass did sell out. So it's interesting to me that they're not applying that model to Genie Plus. And I still don't know, like, how many return times are they going to give out per ride per day? Or how many return times per ride per hour? Like, how many slots total? How is that going to affect the standby line? All of these things, we're just going to have to wait. Honestly, I think you're going to need at least a couple weeks of user testing to try to figure out any sort of pattern. I'm sure there's going to be an influx of articles from, like, day one of, you know, how Genie Plus ruined the standby line or whatever. There's going to be sensationalist things that probably aren't based in fact just quite yet. But it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And again, I know this absolutely is Disney, like, nickel and diming, and these are things that you used to get for free that are now paid. I feel you. I understand that argument. I maintain that you don't have to do it. And I think you can still have a really great day at the parks. And if you hate it that much, like, maybe go to Universal instead, or Six Flags is infinitely cheaper. Six Flags is also a very different experience. But, yeah, like, you don't have to go to the Disney parks. And if it makes you that mad, I mean, I would suggest, yeah, just switching up your vacations and seeing how you feel, perhaps. I do want to know how you feel, though. Let's get past the part where this used to be free, now it's paid. I get that. I've heard it a million times. I'm not disagreeing. But in general, like, how do you feel about the pricing? Is it lower than you thought it would be? Is it higher than you thought it would be? Would you pay for it? Are these the rides you thought would be the individual paid attractions, the Roger rides? And then in terms of Rise of the Resistance going to having a standby queue, how do you feel about that? Honestly, I am actually quite relieved that all of this happened well after my trip, so I didn't even have to consider it. I've got friends going in a week, I've got friends going in a couple weeks, and I know they're kind of like, what do I do? And, you know, I think it's always a personal value thing. Like, you can pay for it if you want. You don't necessarily have to. So, but yeah, I'm happy that I'm not going down to the parks on a once every couple year vacation or even less when this is a new debut. Godspeed to all of you who are. I'm sending you all my best vibes. And last, before we get into analytics, I do have a fun announcement. So we are probably going to Disneyland. It's not 100% set in stone by any means, but I've got some friend and family things to attend to out on the West Coast, and so, like, if I'm already gonna be out there, what if we just went to Disneyland? And my partner's pretty on board. We have bought flights. We haven't purchased anything else, so we don't have Disneyland tickets by any means. We did book some refundable hotels in the Disneyland area, so, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's happening, but, you know, we are mindful of the public health situation, so we're gonna keep an eye on things. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm fairly certain the last time I was in Disneyland was in 2004. For anyone newer to the channel, I have like a health condition. I have many health conditions, but one of them has led to basically I am not able to access my long-term memories as well as I should, or as well as you probably can. So presumably my brain did make them. It's just that the neural pathways for me to recall them are very weak. So I know we went to Disneyland when I was a kid, I think 2 or 3 times, but I really have almost no recollection of it. And even then, obviously, it's changed so much since 2004. And then my partner straight up just has never been, I'm pretty sure. So it'll be our first time out on the West Coast Park, the original one. And we'll do DCA as well, obviously. And I think we're going to do 3 days. And I'm super excited. So if you have any tips or like must-dos, I would love to hear it. I have been looking sort of far and wide for like how to plan your Disneyland trip for beginners. Like there's a million of those for Disney World. There's pretty much nothing for Disneyland, and I guess that's because it's not that hard to plan is sort of the consensus I've gotten from all of my friends in the community. But yeah, any highlights you have would be awesome. I definitely want to hear them. But unfortunately, just with work schedules and stuff, we won't be able to squeeze in Knott's Berry Farm or Universal Hollywood or anything else. It'll just be the 3 days at Disneyland and then these other like friends and family commitments that we have. Moving away from the Jacqueline Rambles for a while section, let's get to the stats. For month 20, I pulled the analytics from September 11th through October 10th. So this was a little bit of an interesting month for me because there were some key changes. For this entire month period, I did post twice a week. I actually started posting twice a week when I started the channel, and then I scaled back because it just was a pace that I couldn't keep up with. So it's literally been a year since I have been posting twice a week, and then we got back to that with this month. The content has also been super different. It's obviously primarily been focused on trip prep rather than sort of these informational heavy videos. Also, there's been almost no DVC content this whole month, which if you look at the last year or so of my channel, it's pretty heavy on the Disney Vacation Club stuff. The only video that really dipped into DVC was the room request video because I was doing it for my DVC villa. So we looked at beach club villas for most of that video actually. But the rest was videos like advanced dining reservations, items I bought for my trip, Magic Band ordering and unboxing, outfit planning, pack with me, and then the last video that counted in this period was the trip trailer. So we haven't gotten actually to any of the vlogs yet. That will start in the stats for next month. For month 20, the total amount of views we got was just under 3,400, so this is actually a fairly big dip. It hasn't been this low since month 12. These views came from 1,844 unique viewers, so again, that's, 300-400 less than it was last month, and that's another pretty big dip. It hasn't been this low really since month 13. But I am happy to say that 327 of those folks were returning viewers, so thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate your support. I wish I could find new ways to say that every month, but I have an engineering background, so my vocabulary is probably not as verbose as I wish it was, as I didn't spend a ton of time reading novels and such, unfortunately. For watch hours this month, we had just over 370 total. That's again low. It's not necessarily as big of a dip as these other 2 metrics we've already talked about, but it is the lowest again since month 12. It's not entirely out of the ordinary by any means, but I would hope to get back up over maybe 400 hours a month or so. We'll see. View duration increased a ton though. Last month it was 6 minutes 11 seconds, that was 10 seconds more than most months. I mean, I hover around 6 minutes, I would say. And this month it was over 6.5 minutes. I don't know what that's about. Some of the content I posted was much shorter than normal, but some of it was also much longer. Like the Pack With Me video is probably a half hour or something, so I don't know. And along with the bump in view duration, then of course the percent view duration increase, we are now at 44.7%. Impressions dipped this month by about 10,000. We're around 50,000 impressions for the month, which again is, it's lower than it's been for the past many months, but I don't think it's a terrible number by any means. I feel like my channel started, quote unquote, taking off between maybe months 12 and 13, and this metric is still higher than that, so I don't feel like I'm crashing and burning, at least. Impressions from YouTube, though, is the highest it's ever been for a single month. We're at 31.5%. So I think it's very interesting that my impressions from YouTube is the highest it's ever been, but the total number of impressions is down, and the total number of views is down, and watch hours is down, but like returning viewers is still good, and you'll see in a second, but there's some other stats that make this calculus in my brain a little confusing. This is one of them. Watch time from those not subscribed is close to the best it's ever been. It's practically there. We're under 60%, which means that 40% of my watch time is coming from subscribers, which I'm so freaking thrilled about. That's awesome. So thanks so much for subscribing and coming back and watching the content. I so appreciate it. And maybe, naively, I'm hoping that this means some folks who had been watching for a while, but maybe not subscribed yet, had finally converted and subscribed this month and last month, but it's just really hard to say. And overall this month we did get 35 new subscribers, which is definitely an improvement from last month. It's not a huge amount. It's still not, 1.5 a day per the period, but it is at least back to the 1 and a little bit per day, which I think in general, I feel comfortable with getting at least, 1 new subscriber a day on average, I think is pretty good for me. The top videos in this period are interesting because once again, we have the photo pass video as number 1, but then the next 5 were all posted in this period. So usually the top videos in a month for me are sort of a mix of older videos and stuff I've recently posted. So it's nice to see that there is engagement on the things that I'm posting, right when I'm posting them. Maybe that is from the 31.5% impressions from YouTube. Maybe that's just from my subscribers being awesome. Who knows? We'll reflect on the month a little bit more at the end of this, but it was a weird month analytics-wise, if you ask me. Moving away from YouTube for a minute, over on Twitter, I am now following 873 accounts, and 795 are following me. And then on Instagram, I am following 359, and 281 are following me. So I really am pretty active over on Twitter. I am kind of surprised that my follower count isn't growing faster. Maybe that's just because I need to follow more people. I'm not really sure, but that's fine. But if you ever want to chat, I'm on Twitter quite a lot. Instagram, I'm trying to be better about being on, particularly since I got back from the trip and have some new fun pics, but it does just feel like a very shallow platform. And I think I struggle with that a lot, on a day-to-day basis. Even my personal private Instagram, I don't go on very much. Back to YouTube, let's look at the lifetime analytics for the channel. So views now, we are over 40,000 views. We broke that this month, which is awesome. And that has resulted in over 4,400 total watch hours. So I think we should absolutely break 4,500 this month, which will be a new milestone. So I'm really excited about that. View duration ticked up 2 seconds. We're now at 6 minutes and 8 seconds. And so percent view duration is now 0.1% higher at 42.6%. The total number of impressions for the lifetime of the channel is over 600,000. And so now I'm starting to wonder if there's a correlation between your lifetime impressions and your subscribers, lifetime, obviously. So if any of you have channels and have comments or thoughts about that, definitely leave them in the comments down below. My overall impressions from YouTube lifetime for the channel did increase again this month, which is awesome. We're getting close to 25% again. And watch time from those not subscribed did decrease again this month by 1%. Decreased here is good. So we're now down to 70.5%, meaning that, 30% of my watch time on the channel is from folks who are subscribed. So thanks again. And finally, overall, we are at 606 subscribers. So if you'll remember, I had a little over 600,000 impressions. So I kind of wonder, does that correlate? Is my 600,000 impressions and my 600-ish subscribers, are those correlated at all? Or am I trying to see patterns where they don't exist because the human mind is stubborn like that? So if we look at month 20 in the lifetime analytics compared especially to month 19, it wasn't great. I feel very confused about the month stats, especially because, again, we had less views, we had less watch hours, but the average view duration went up, the impressions from YouTube went up, the number of subscribers went up. So even though less people were coming to the channel, more people subscribed. It's very confusing, honestly. I think I'm just gonna try not to wrap my brain around it too much because it might explode. And I say this every month, I think, but I really haven't done a lot of research into what the stats mean and the YouTube analytics and the algorithm. So I don't think I really have the base knowledge to pontificate too much, but it was a strange month. The other thing is I was posting twice a week for this entire period, which is twice as much as I normally post, but there was less views, less watch hours. And in many of these categories, right, you could ascertain that there was just like less engagement with the channel, which is strange because I didn't necessarily expect anything to double. I definitely didn't. I didn't even know if it would go up necessarily, but to not even keep pace, I think, is bizarre. Certainly some of that, I'm guessing, is the content topics, like folks who tuned into my channel previously before that Disney Vacation Club information heavy content aren't getting that content right now, so maybe they're sort of abandoning me. That being said, this is one of the best months I've ever had for watch time from those not subscribed, meaning that I am having a lot of engagement from the subscribers, from you. So to some extent, I do feel like I'm at least holding on to my core base of subscribers. I don't know. It's all very confusing. So it was a strange month. Month 20 was a little bit weird, and even the lifetime analytics are a little wonky because of that, I think. But, I'm really excited to be approaching 4,500 lifetime watch hours. That is so awesome. I can't believe we eclipsed 600 subscribers. That was basically my beginning of year goal for the end of the year, and we beat it by 6 weeks. So that's great. And I still am, naively hopeful that maybe we will get a surge of subscribers from the vlogs. I definitely don't think we're hitting 1,000 in 2021, but that's fine. It's an arbitrary goal anyway. Coming up on the channel is basically vlogs. I have been working on the vlogs. Unfortunately, some of the audio quality didn't turn out so great, so I'm trying to think of creative ways to get around that. There's gonna be some at-home voiceover with like B-roll. Sorry, friends. And then I do want to try to intersperse reaction videos. My partner and I haven't filmed any of these yet. We've just been super bogged down with work. Some of the ideas kicking around in my brain that I probably want to do, but I'm very open to feedback, would be universal favorites. So snacks, sit-down meals, quick service meals, rides, new experiences, that kind of thing. I definitely want to compare and contrast the 2 Universal hotels we stayed at. So one was off-site, not officially affiliated with Universal, although they're like a good neighbor hotel or whatever they call it at Universal. And then we did also stay on-site at a Universal hotel. I've been working on tallying up all the math of everything we spent, so you can look at how much it costs to do an elongated vacation at Walt Disney World. Most of that is food costs, honestly, because, with DVC, that's a little bit different because we were using points. So yeah, it's just a lot to pull from our various credit card statements and whatnot, but I do want to do that, so that'll be more of an informational video. Maybe we'll do best of Epcot food and wine. We ate at quite a lot of those booths. I'm pretty interested in talking about the best steak we ate. We ate more red meat on that trip than we normally would, probably in a couple months, including many steaks, 2 of which came from Le Cellier and Yachtsman, so I definitely want to sort of compare and contrast those. I'm thinking of maybe an expectations versus reality video or series of videos, particularly for dining. I definitely want to do that one wherein, I've been planning this trip for 2.5 years in my head, and I thought we would do the dining plan, and, there was no dining plan, and we did adjust our dining reservations and our plans quite a lot based on no dining plan, based on pandemic, that kind of thing. I kind of also want to do a casual video about characters 2019 versus 2021. Obviously it's super different. I don't think anything I have to say is, groundbreaking or new or a hot take or whatever, but I just kind of want to talk out my feelings and see how you guys feel too. A question I get asked a lot over on that PhotoPass video, and actually gets DM'd to me on Instagram the most, is Memory Maker worth it, especially in 2021? So I can talk about that. And in general, if there are any other topics you definitely want me to tackle, or if there's anything on this list you think sounds very boring, please let me know. I am really genuinely interested in your feedback. The folks who sit here and watch these monthly creator updates and comment back, you're some of my, most trusted, board of advisors, basically, for my YouTube channel. Unofficially, there is no pay for that. Next month's stats will be the first one where the month is fully, trip content. So vlogs, maybe we'll squeak in a reaction video. Like I said, we haven't filmed any yet, so I'm not sure timing-wise, but that's definitely possible. So yeah, we'll have vlogs and then a couple, 1 at least room tour, maybe 2. That is going to be so interesting to me because for all I know, my stats could plummet, they could skyrocket, it could be about the same. Honestly, who knows? In some sense, it gives me a little bit of anxiety, which is silly, and I try not to let YouTube and the channel and social media affect my mental health by any means, so just gonna bury those feelings for now. But it'll be a fun experiment at the very least. And I am planning still on posting twice a week, at least for the next month, I think. I can't make any promises after that. I've not been able to edit nearly as much as I would have liked. In good news, I guess I got a promotion at my job, which is awesome, but it's a lot more work, so I'm a lot busier these days. But anyway, vlogs are coming. I know, this channel started as very informational. It didn't really matter who I was. The vlogs are obviously a lot more personal. It's a lot more about me and my likes and my partner and what we're doing and our feelings about things. So, it's a very different style of content. And I can appreciate that not all of you are here for that. But for those of you who have taken some time to build a relationship with me, I really appreciate it. It's nice to know that you're in my corner. Also, it is my first time vlogging, so, I am absolutely open to constructive criticism, but try to keep it constructive, and also realize that I'm home. Like, I can't go back and refilm, I can't go back and reshoot, I can't necessarily take your criticisms and apply them to the vlogs coming out of this trip. Hopefully I can apply them to vlogs coming out of future trips, like when we go to Disneyland. But yeah, at least for this series of vlogs, like, I can't do too much about definitely the audio or the visuals, maybe the editing, obviously I could change up a little bit. So, but yeah, I'm happy to have your feedback, and thank you so much for coming along on the journey with me, and especially for sitting through the monthly creator update videos. I know they're not necessarily the most exciting, but I think some of us have fun analytic minds and have that kinship together. I hope the rest of your day is super magical, and we will see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.